What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO stock and talk about something very important for the next upcoming months. Because during the upcoming months, towards the end of the year, we tend to see NIO do very well during this time. So I'm going to break down why on earth it's very possible that as long as there isn't like anything too crazy on the news from a macroeconomic standpoint, there's a high probability that even if NIO is a little weak for this month of September, as we approach the end of this year, going into the next few months, NIO is primed for a massive short squeeze, and these drops could be very, very good buying opportunities, in my opinion. So I'm going to talk about why on earth that is, some very big things to consider, and why I'm very excited for what's about to come to NIO, in my opinion. But before I break anything down about what's going on with NIO stock and some important updates, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm personally not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, in just about 5 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with NIO stock and some very important updates. So, looking at NIO, at the time I'm recording this, it's at about $10 a share, but I want to break down something very important. When you look at the weekly time frame of NIO, the weekly is still looking kind of weak for NIO, and if this thing does continue to downtrend, I am not worried whatsoever. And here's the reason why. When you zoom out of the charts, notice something interesting about NIO. Every time this thing has these major sell-offs for many weeks in a row, we eventually get a nice pop to the upside. This keeps on happening, so for a trader, this could be very, very good for volatility. But on top of this, I just want to remind everyone that when it comes to the way NIO moves, the long term of this company is still very bright, and I think there's a lot of potential for some strong deliveries as we approach the end of the year, and that could help the share price big time. So I want to just break this down for everyone and talk about something very important. Let's first look at their deliveries numbers. Now, even though there are negative macroeconomic effects involving China, even though in China we're seeing exports slowing down and some negative pieces of news, it is not the end of the world for NIO, in my opinion. These are external things that are outside of NIO's control, and I think that fundamentals will eventually help the company because the market is going to help NIO drag itself up, and also NIO has some strong catalysts coming, in my opinion. So looking at their numbers, okay, if you look at their deliveries, I just wanted to mention that towards the last couple of months that we just had, NIO has reported some very, very strong numbers. And I believe that this trend may continue as time goes on. Let me just pull this up and make this a little bit easier for everyone to see. So we have their deliveries right here, right? You guys can see that we have their monthly deliveries, and their last two deliveries have been very, very strong. NIO saw some temporary bounces as this data came out. But there's something else that's very important and worth noting. And that is the fact that from a seasonality basis, the ends of the year tend to be some of the strongest periods for NIO, not just in terms of deliveries, but also in terms of their price performances. And I'm going to show you some data in the past and also what the numbers look like. So here are their deliveries. You guys are going to notice a very interesting trend. Now look at the orange bars. We're going to start off by looking at the orange ones. Okay, this is for 2021. Look at the orange one here. They did like 7,000 deliveries back in like January 2021. And you could see they were basically doing between 5,000 and about 7,000 deliveries during those periods. But then starting in September, they saw a slight increase, a bit of a drop in October. And then in November and December, they got very strong numbers at their time, breaking all-time highs for 2021 and before that period. So at that time, they broke all-time highs, November and December of 2021 for strong numbers, and that was very, very strong. Then for the green bars, you guys can see the green ones over here. Look at 2022. What happened this year? January had decent numbers. February was a little weak because of the Lunar New Year. March, a little bit better. April was kind of weak with the lockdown, so was May, and also June saw some slight increases. Then they had pretty decent months, especially for like August and September. October, they saw a slight slowdown. That's what I could be expecting for the next deliveries. But here's the thing. November came, NIO crushed it. December came, they absolutely killed it. So once again, the same thing happened towards the very end of this year. A slight slowdown in October for their numbers. September tends to be relatively strong too, but October tends to be a little slower. But November and December tend to be very, very strong for them. And then looking at the current chart, I know this is not showing August. I couldn't find the chart that showed August on this, but basically for the month of August, we saw 19,000 deliveries again. September, we might see something very similar as long as the trend holds 19 to 20,000 deliveries. We might see a slight decline in October, but then once we get to the December and excuse me, November and December, things tend to be much stronger. I would not be surprised if they do like 25,000, 30,000 deliveries during that time frame, despite the lockdowns. Not lockdowns, but like any potential lockdowns that could happen, despite what anyone's trying to say. There were some talks about that. I know I heard people saying that for the end of the year, but also despite any economic contractions, I think there is potential for NIO to give us some very strong numbers for November and December. Just look at the trend that shows historically. And then on top of this, check this out. If you look at SPY, if you look at SPY or any other stock out there, November tends to be one of the strongest months of the year. We tend to see SPY green 80% of the time in November. We tend to get that like Santa rally or something very, very nice like that. Now, for NIO, I want you guys to see something. Historically, NIO tends to be a little bit weak in February. March tends to be a weak month for it. April tends to be a little bit better. May tends to be okay. June tends to be kind of weak. July tends to be okay. August tends to be kind of like a weak month. September tends to be like an okay month. Pretty good month for them historically, but this time around, with the macroeconomic factors, it's still slowing them down. Also, because their earnings were not the best, and this is because of what we were expecting. October tends to be a little bit weak because their deliveries tend to not be the best, but check out November. They're very strong. November, December tends to be strong. January tends to be extremely strong for them historically. So we are approaching the three strongest months of NIO's year, November through January. That tends to be the strongest period for them. And there's a chance that we're going to see a big squeeze for the company. Now, just to be frank with everyone, okay, for me to be honest with you all, there could be a little bit of weakness in NIO for the short term, right? If you look at how the market is moving, could we get a small bounce with the whole market just temporarily thanks to like Apple? Yes, it's a real possibility. Yes, we could see a small bounce, but I'm trying to talk about this gap that's unfilled on NIO. Let me just pull up the daily and show you. This 10.68 area could get filled. We could see NIO try to fill this gap first before it does continue lower, but the daily chart is still looking kind of weak on NIO, still is on a slight downtrend, but I'm still completely fine because one thing worth mentioning is the fact that even if NIO is forming like a head and shoulders, even if we do get a small bounce and end up like continuing to drop, we could get a bounce soon after all the selling that we have done for the past couple of days. But then even if we do continue to drop lower, it is okay because like I was telling you earlier, every time NIO hits $7, these low levels like this $8, $9, every time we hit this range, it will eventually make its way back up. You could see right here, back in the chart, this thing was in the sevens. What did it do? It bounced all the way back up to like 14. It doubled in value within a month, right? From November to December, we saw this very, very nice pump. And then on top of that, right here, NIO was at about $8. We got a pump all the way back up to 10. It did come a little bit lower into the 7, stayed there for a few months because of some bad news. But then after that, from $7, from the middle of June, it went all the way up to 16 by August within just a couple of months. Now it's coming back down. Let's just say it does drop back down to 7. What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to crash forever? Just be honest with me. Think about the trends. Think about how strong deliveries are likely going to be as time goes on. Think about the months of November and December historically. Think about the fact that November, December, and January tend to be the strongest months of the year for NIO. And then on top of all of that, look at the charts. Yes, it's looking a little weak. Yes, it could fall, but check this out. If you look at this 10.6 area, there's a gap over here that's unfilled. If you look right here at around 11.5, there's an unfilled gap. If you look at this level right here, right, we have another unfilled gap that basically formed. Let me just zoom into it so you can see it a little bit better. This gap is unfilled right here, 12.73. There's a big gap unfilled at 14.8, right? And that's pretty much it from that end. At least just for like the medium term guys, next few months, I could see NIO coming all the way back to the 14s, 15s. So if you're buying at $10, if it keeps dropping, you could dollar cost average. Maybe your average ends up dropping to lower levels, right? But eventually, if you just wait a few months, you're going to make a crazy return on those shares or any like leaps if you try buying them. Not financial advice, guys, but I just wanted to call it out that this is a big opportunity for the people out there that wanted to buy NIO at those low prices. People were telling me they wanted NIO to go back to $7 when this thing was pumping to 16 because they wish they bought the dips. Well, what's happening now? It's like when NIO starts dropping, people start panicking, they start complaining and crying. But this is just another opportunity, another big opportunity to buy the dips. Now, for the really long term, for the next upcoming years, let me just mention that you could look at the chart and, whoops, I don't know what just happened, guys. Sorry about that, everyone. Uh, I, I don't know what just happened there. But, anyways, looking back at the charts, there are other important things worth mentioning. We have these unfilled gaps up here in the 27s. I think there's another one I saw. There's another unfilled gap up here. I don't know if this got filled completely. I think it almost got filled, but there could be more in like the 40s, which I'm still not like seeing because I'm just looking at this from my naked eyes really really quickly. But there tend to be a lot of gaps that are unfilled. There's also unfilled gaps up here in the 60s, like right here. You guys can see it. So the point I'm trying to make, guys, is these gaps will likely get filled in the future. It may take a while, but eventually, they're gonna make their way back up. Now, looking at the market, if you look at how NIO is looking, at the very least for the shorter term, there could be some downside. Maybe we pop a little to fill the gap at 10.6, then we start dropping lower. Sure, that could happen, right? September, October, they tend to not be the strongest of months. But towards the end of the year, I am very confident that as the market pumps, which it most likely will, we're going to see more upside for NIO. If you look at SPY on the monthly chart, check this out, okay? On the monthly, SPY is forming a giant cup and handle. Yes, this is like a cup. Now we're forming the handle. It's going to drop a little bit. It could drop a little bit more for September, sure. The market could drag down lower, sure. But this is another buying opportunity because it's just a giant cup and handle. It's going to eventually push up towards the end of the year. That is what this is suggesting. And we're very much due for a pullback. If you look at the charts, we're getting so many green months in a row. So a slight pullback would be normal before a bigger push to the upside. We could still see the market hold up very, very nicely. And I think we're going to get a very nice push by November/December. Very, very bullish price action. I think that's going to happen. That's going to drag NIO up, and I think NIO is going to pump during those time frames. If you look at the monthly, we're about to get a bullish cross in the PPO. We're getting very close to it. It could drag out for another month or two, but eventually I think NIO is going to see a big reversal. I am still leaning in that direction. So hopefully this video was clear. Hopefully this is like optimistic for people out there who are panicking and kind of scared. Yes, there could be downside in the future. Yes, and it still is a possibility for like the month of September and October. Yes, but I'm still bullish long term for many different reasons, from NIO's fundamentals to deliveries to the improvements being made to the company. So thank you for listening. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you and peace out.